Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It is G here and I am in the ancient city in Thailand and I want to talk about what it's like to visit. Let's talk about what it's like to be in a country that was never colonized. Guys, subscribe to my channel and let's have a little chat. If you did not know, Thailand is one of two countries in the entire world that was not colonized. And what's really interesting is during like the time of colonization, when the powers of colonization, particularly France and Great Britain, were colonizing Indochina for France and Burma for the UK, Thailand was like in the middle, and it was strategic to kind of leave Thailand alone. So while it was being left alone, Thailand basically restructured itself to mimic colonization as though it had been colonized. So what they ended up doing was spending a lot of time changing how they functioned as a country. And so back then it was called Siam and not Thailand. Thailand eventually became its name, but it's really interesting to be in a country where their culture and their history is and was continuous without the disruption and destruction associated with having been colonized. And so being here, you see like all of the ancient things from tens of thousands of years ago, but you also see how that culture has evolved over time. And I think one of the most particular ways that you can understand how Thai culture and how the lack of colonization has affected Thai culture is through its gender fluidity. That is one of the things that we always talk about indigenously existed forever. But because Thailand was not colonized, they have still been able to have that continuum of gender fluidity to a certain extent here in Thailand. And I want to talk more about this, and I probably want to do a part 2 about dating and the things I've observed about this sort of thing here in Thailand. But if you didn't know, ladyboys, and I'm going to write the correct Thai name for them here, but it translates to ladyboys, are well and widely accepted within Thai culture. It doesn't have anything to do with their sexuality sometimes, but however, the gender fluidity of it still exists. And so Thailand is one of those places that people are often talk about when they say it's like widely accepted of like LGBTQ culture, which is true with some caveats, right? Because it's not without discrimination. And it's also leaves out masked females. One of the things that I have found really interesting is to understand that the ladyboys in Thailand are accepted, acknowledged, like politically in the governments and everything. However, that doesn't have the same carryover for mask presenting or mask women. So it is not that they don't have a place, but they don't have the same level of visibility or acceptance. They have like more of a like, you're kind of a tomboy kind of thing. And they call femme lesbian women D's. So it's really quite interesting how they've kind of like left that out. And from my understanding, it's because they find the ladyboy concept more entertaining to a certain extent. And culturally, they have seen that ladyboys being incorporated still kind of serves men. One of the reasons that I found that masked women do not get the same sort of support or representation as feminized men is because the attitude towards femininity in Thai culture is very, very different. Femininity is seen as something that is beautiful, something to be celebrated, something to be entertained by as well, which is why a lot of times ladyboys got integrated far more widely into Thai culture than masked women did. And so I kind of see that a little bit as misogyny towards them just because this feminized man um is more likely to be seen as entertainment or a plaything for other men. A mass presenting female person is not as entertaining. And it feels like from all of the things and the resources and the people I've talked to, it feels like that is part of the reason they are not as well incorporated or represented in Thai culture when you start talking about the LGBTQIA community here. Not to say that they don't exist, of course they exist, but they don't get the same sort of riz, as my son would say, as the feminized men or ladyboys. And the thing that's really amazing is how women also accept ladyboys and might date a ladyboy. Like they are well incorporated as like not just having to be with men. So ladyboys, just because they're feminized men, do not necessarily identify as gay men. So it's widely accepted to see a woman dating, married with a ladyboy if they like women. Um, so it's very, very interesting. Just like that, all of those things. And I know, like in American culture, especially cultures of color, have a really hard time accepting bisexuality or alternatives to how people see themselves in their gender identity versus their sexuality. And it seems like that is not a thing. And I really do think that colonization is one of the reasons that most of the rest of the world have taken such issue with people who have, you know, two spirits or who have identify their sexuality and their gender identity differently than their physical form. That just seems like here in Thailand is something that has been widely accepted as normal, and both like the government and society have spaces for these people and without problem. So one of the things that you will notice in art and like history is that you see ladyboys over time, the evolution. There's even an exhibit we went into the Modern Museum of Contemporary Art, and you see like two dudes risen on a ladyboy. It's totally acceptable. But you do not see that same energy for mask presenting women. And like reading a little bit more about the culture, it basically says like just be men. Like if that's what you want to do, be a man. It's not like that they care, but they don't. I guess they're not necessarily discriminated against in the same way, although there are prejudices. Um, they just don't have the same like recognition and status, I guess, as ladyboys do in Thai culture. But I think that just stands out to me because it's one of the things that colonization has wiped from indigenous cultures to all of our detriment, you know? So I think that one of the things that is amazing is to see how a culture can evolve where people are accepted for their gender identities, where society doesn't actually try to force them into certain roles. This is obviously something that has continued since indigenous times. And the fact that they didn't never had to accept the binary rules of Christianity and Western cultural ideologies has made a huge difference in the acceptance of that. So being in this culture, being in this country has been really interesting to see how people interact. It's just like very normal. And I've been in bathrooms, guess what, where I'm pretty sure there were some ladyboys in there and we had chats at the freaking sink. and kept on moving. One of the things in the United States, people are always like worried about like toilet culture for some reason. And, you know, people have multi-gender bathrooms in their homes. However, outside of that, it becomes like a strange issue in American culture. And seeing how well integrated people with variety of gender identities exist in a place really, it feels really shameful to know how many people have these discussions about these things in other parts of the world and how ridiculous they are. And it shows how connected or disconnected we are from our overall, from the realities of our history. And I think that the fact that Thai culture has never had to incorporate all of the colonial ideologies into their culture, they were able to save so much. Seeing that continuum and how it evolves over time, you almost get jealous, you know, because you look at other cultures that are rich but were robbed of so many things that we won't ever know about. Cultures that actually could have solved some of our current issues beyond, you know, just gender identities and things like that. Like, it just feels, it feels sad that we're so unevolved, you know, as a society because of colonization and colonialism. And we really think that we've evolved because we have tech, right? And that's even something that wasn't only created because of colonization, but we credit being westernized to that. And one of the things that's really interesting is like Thailand is very Western in the sense of its infrastructure and all of these other like things that they have here, but still incorporating their lifelong, cultural long ideologies. And it's really like really nice to see. And Thai people seem happy. Everyone is very kind, very nice. We've been walking down the street and people just say hello, give the boys fist bumps as we're walking past. So it's been really like a great experience. And I think even some of that happiness and joy is because they have not had to adopt all of the levels of colonial ideologies into their culture. So I feel like I feel like again, when you start looking at how colonization has affected our attitudes about so many things in our society, and you find a country that managed not to participate in being colonized, and so therefore the people, the individuals in that country don't have to deconstruct the colonization that has happened and that we're all a victim of in most of the rest of the world, you see like a society that is beautiful. Their culture has been maintained and their history has been appreciated. They didn't have to erase aspects of what their history is or was to fit into another culture's ideologies and identities. And that's one of the things that you see everywhere in Thailand, you know, like everywhere. And it's been lovely to experience being in a space where queerness is just life. I think like that is one of the main things that colonization and the social structures that we have managed to create across most of the West, and I mean parts of the East, obviously, you know, makes a huge difference. It has made a difference. And I think that a society that loves and accepts all of its types of people, regardless of, and not trying to put them in binary roles, is key to how a successful society should function, because we can see the downfalls across like many of our other cultures and societies who have issues with these aspects of life. I don't know. I feel like being here, I see more and more what culture could look like without having been colonized, and seeing how people still have like their ancient connectivity to their ancestors, a culture that meant something for thousands and thousands of years and they haven't lost it. Guys, I feel like that is one of the keys that make people love Thailand, especially people of color, because most of us, even if you're still in continent Africa, have lost so much to what colonial powers have done and hindered in an effort to make themselves rich. They've hindered so many cultures time and time again. So being in Thailand, you see what they did to us. You see what they did to the world, and how it's negatively impacted so many places. So guys, I would love to hear what you think. If you have not already, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys in the comments. Ciao, ciao for now.